Let's go. I love this shirt. Expect to see this shirt very, very soon. Public Enemy #1, Dr. Evil. Dr. Evil. That's maybe I'll call it that on the site to avoid any legal stuff. But let's get into it. This is episode 434 Soul Not For Sale podcast. This episode, we're getting into Joe Rogan, Killer Mike, sitting down and talking about left-wing authoritarianism. And I'm sure you've seen it everywhere. As soon as these people got into power, they started expressing or started exercising more and more authority. We saw it very much over the past 4 years. They started really ruling with an iron fist, and a lot of people had to stand up. A lot of people had to deny a certain procedure and stood up the best that we could. Let's get into the store real quick before I bring you guys over there. We got the America Soul Not For Sale shirt. This is the t-shirt here with the American, the red, white, and blue atop of it. Design that I've made, the best design. How you get to this design on the website, you go to catalog, you go to America Soul Not For Sale, and then you see all the options that we have available. We have t-shirts for women, we have t-shirts for men, we have tank tops for women, we have tank tops for men, and we have a hoodie as well. Let me go over to the men's tank top. Nice and big on that Soul Not For Sale. Check it out, guys. Get it. Rep America in style. Show them that your soul's not for sale, and neither is the soul of your country. That's all on IamCoachColin.com. Now, discount code. Some people are saying they're having trouble with the discount code. Remember, it is I am Coach Colin, not I'm Coach Colin. I am Coach Colin, all one word, all capital letters, one L in the name Colin, okay? That should set it up perfect for you. That should get you 10% off, all right? Now let's get into the clip. Now, also, if you've gotten anything from the site, thank you so much. You are much appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get into the clip. Let's switch over here. Let's get right into it.
To that lady who's Emmy nominated that hates me, God bless your soul, woman. I had never thought about winning an Emmy in my life, but because you hated on me when I got, and she hates me for the most ridiculous reason. God bless her soul. She hates me just because I'm not a Democrat, do boy. You know what I mean? Like I've had Democrats I like and I push for them, especially locally. But I'm sorry, lady, I can't be a do boy. And God bless me to fuck around and get rich. I don't take money from any politicians or political party. So if you see me stand next to someone, it's because I really believe. And if they don't convince me to believe, I'm not going to stand next to them, right? She wanted me to stand next to somebody. I'm like, sorry, lady, I've had some conversations with her. I've tried my best, but I'm not hating, but it's just ain't my thing. But this chick was just like, I'm going to use my platform to, and I'm like, you don't really have a platform? Yeah. But she, in her bio, she's an Emmy nominated actress. Man, winning that Emmy sure felt good. I blocked her, but I'm sure someone has told her. But I'm just like, holding it, I hope she sees the picture. Like, yeah, thank God for your hate, lady, because it made me care. I went to the ceremonies and walked away with a trophy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And to her, there was a study that was done recently about left-wing authoritarianism and the way certain people behave, and that it's like a bunch of different psychological conditions that they're almost indistinguishable from like horrible narcissism. Horrible, like psychotic behavior. Like, see if you can find it. What their conclusions were. But at the fringes, when people, what happens is when you have groups that are ideological groups, whether it's the left or the right. Yeah. You're gonna get people that just join that group that are absolutely insane. Yeah. And if you don't call it out, then you have a giant problem because people are going to associate you with whatever the worst aspects of your, like right-wing Proud Boys, like that kind of shit. Yeah. The experts somehow overlooked authoritarians on the left. Many psychologists wrongly assume that coercive attitudes exist only among conservatives. Of course, it's a human characteristic.
I did a speech for the organization FIRE, and I missaid, I'm sorry, the brown shirts of Italy, but what I meant was the brown shirts of Germany, that as the left, as you accomplish more power politically, don't use it as a bludgeon in the same way you've perceived it to be used against you. Right. That you have to rule, quote unquote, in a more fair and equitable way, you can't let your fair and equitable thoughts become totalitarian.
Yeah,
you know
you
what I'm
also can't give in to this crazy instinct that we all humans have to be tribal.
Yes.
And I am a Democrat. I am a lifelong blue no matter
Yes,
who.
yeah.
You can't,
Yeah.
that's not
and
wise.
that's both. Yeah, it's both sides. But we tend.
Yes,
I grew
both
up. I was
sides.
fortunate enough to grow up in a household where my grandmother was SCLC member, from Tuskegee, had been born in 1932, had been a part of civil rights stuff. My grandfather. So my grandmother grew up on a farm. Could go to school. They weren't wealthy, but they had food, they had sustenance, they had education. My grandfather grew up working in a sawmill at 8 years old because his father abandoned his family and he had to feed his mothers and sisters. So his mentality was much more libertarian, I would say. His mentality was, if God gave you an appetite and a mind to build a fishing rod, you should be able to catch fish. And my grandmother was like, you shouldn't complain about having to buy a fishing license because the game warden has to make sure things are legit and somebody's to clean up the park. So I got a chance to see these wonderful political arguments between these two people that loved each other. You know, my grandmother, college-educated woman, my grandfather drove a truck and hauled moonshine and gambled, you know what I mean? He married this God-fearing woman. I never saw him walk in the church. But they had these great debates that showed me that there are no absolutes, that there are going to be some things from each side that make sense to run a good household. And I watched them just do it right. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad I saw that because I don't feel married to any ideology.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's important.
Shouts out to Betty and Willie. God bless the dead, man.
Yeah, getting attached to ideologies is always a bad idea, particularly when we like human beings in America have two choices.
Yeah.
You have two choices, the left and the right. And people just they adhere. They adhere to whatever this side's doing because they want them to win.
Yep.
And then you have some weird problematic figures like Trump who comes along.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of never-Trumper Republicans. They don't know what to do. It's
But I say in this crazy-ass country, pay attention to the people who have no chance of winning sometimes because they're going to be some truths told. Like, no matter what you feel about Trump, there was a moment in that debate, Chappelle talks about it, when Trump said, of course these loopholes exist. They exist. He was talking to Hillary.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah, I'm going to take advantage of the loophole.
Yeah.
Because they also exist for the people who are doing it in your campaign. I was like, finally, a member of the oligarchy class says, yeah, motherfucker, we're cheating.
Yeah.
And I was like, at that point, Americans should have said hard reset.
Yeah.
Like they literally should have said pre-Eisenhower, hard reset. We're gonna reform all this shit. The money's gonna work different. None of us said a goddamn thing. And you know why? Because we're all complacent in some capacity. We're all accompanied in this grand scheme that's fucking us over. And if you don't have an educated constituency of proletariat, it's all just going to kind of reform. So like doing this election, people were like, who are you supporting? I was like, I don't give a fuck nationally. I give a fuck that Cornel West is in the race because I'm interested to see what he's going to say. Kennedy, I'm interested just to hear, whatever crazy shit people think he's, whoever else is running. I'm just interested because the two parties we know we got, but there are all these little voices that pop up, that little grains of truth. They stand no chance of winning in some cases, but let me just take a grain of what you're saying, and that way I'll know what to take back to the party that wins and say, hey, what about this? Why do we have money for this, but we don't have money for this? Like Sanders.
The disrespect to mention Cornel West in the same sentence as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The disrespect. I don't know. When I see Cornel West, I'm like, please God, no. Please God, no. Not even a position in anyone's cabinet. He just seems. It seems like if he gets in power, the entire country would become like one mostly peaceful protest. I don't know what it is. I don't know. He just seems like he would just be so far left and would just embrace any type of riots, any type of Black Lives Matter type of behavior. I think he would embrace it all. So I wouldn't want to see him in any position. Definitely nothing like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. attacks no one and just wants to see both sides come together and wants to see all Americans come together. Cornel West, I don't believe that he has that in mind. I think on some level he is a socialist that has Marxist tendencies that he hides well, that he wraps up in civil rights type of views. That's what I think when it comes to him. That's just me, though. I can't hate on him. We both got gap teeth, gap tooth people. So we got something in common at least. No hair, though. I don't have any hair. But I think something got skimmed over in the beginning of this clip. And I think it happens so often that people think that it's like a normal thing. He just said some lady said she wanted him to endorse someone in a political standing, some politician, and he said he looked into them, didn't really like what he saw, and couldn't stand next to them in that regard, and she decided to attack him. That's wild in my opinion. I don't know about anybody else, but that seems nuts. That's just like a normal thing. It's just like, you get attacked sometimes. You know how it is. Like, what? He's like, I got my Emmy, and they kind of skimmed over it, but that's insane. That some lady was like, I'm going to attack you, and hopefully I get to impact your money and your livelihood and your family. Hopefully, I can do some damage to you because you didn't support somebody politically. And I think that goes on with the root of what this conversation stemmed from, which is, the left wing becoming very totalitarian and feeling like they could rule with that iron fist, and they could kind of do whatever they'd like. And if you oppose them, you should be open to attacks. You should be opening to the labeling that they do. You should be open to all of the labeling, racist, misogynistic, let me take a swipe at you, that type of thing. Kind of wild that was like not focused on more by Rogan. But I do believe it's because it's become so normal. It's like, oh, well, you went against the narrative. We all know what's going to happen next, right? And everybody's just like, yeah, he's going to get attacked in the media. And it's like, yeah, well, hopefully he survives. Like, it's just that kind of thing. And it shouldn't be that way. That should kind of outrage people just to learn that fact. And it should outrage him more. He was just like, thank God for that lady. I got an Emmy. Like, I don't know. I would have outed that lady. He never says her name throughout the whole podcast. He just says this woman. He never actually names her. She's an actress, apparently. So, very interesting. But yeah, the left wing getting very authoritarian, getting very totalitarian. I think we've all seen that. We're seeing it more and more. And I think if they had an option to take away the elections right now, I mean, they're already taking away debates with the prime person that they want to put in place, which is Joe Biden. They're already taking away the debates, or at least taking away him debating, which is pretty, like, you need that. You need all of the voices to be able to debate the voice that's in power right now, so people can actually see, are these new voices better or worse in thinking with the people who are in power now? And I think they know that. And if they could take away the elections completely, I think they would. I think they would just keep on rolling with it and just like have him in power until his battery dies out. I mean that figuratively and literally. But very interesting conversation. Here's where Mike was wrong, though. When he brought up Trump talking about loopholes, that is not a cheat. I don't know if you guys know this. These loopholes that the elites the elites use. If you ever read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and if you ever get really financially literate and learn about how finance works and learn about how to structure yourself as a corporation and a company a lot better in the form of like LLCs and, have a trust and have a holding company and how to like actually have all that laid out for yourself, you could take advantage of these exact same things. It's not because they're rich they get to take advantage of it. It's because they have somebody who's a professional in the money space, who's very financially literate, and then they help you take advantage of these loopholes. And anybody out there, you can do it. I can do it. This is open to anybody. It's not cheating, Arguably, I don't want to sound too libertarian, but arguably the whole tax system is cheating. I mean, taxes were supposed to just be levied against the rich. They only used to get levied in times of war. And then the government persuaded the poor and middle class to say, hey, let's have taxes all year round and we'll tax those rich people all year round. And the middle class and the poor were like, yes, let's do that. I think this was like in the early 1900s, maybe 1800s, maybe even earlier. I'm not sure. But the middle class and poor class were like, yes, do that. And the rich were smart, again, financially literate, and they decided, we're not going to go in for that. We're not just going to be taxed to death. So they started finding these loopholes, and they started really getting around it. So then the government was like, listen, just temporarily, we're going to tax you guys too. And then that temporarily got brought into law permanently. And that's like the very bare bones gist of like the tax system. So I don't know. I kind of see that as like, why don't we go back to the way it was? You know, you levy it just in times of war, which in our case would have been for the past 100 years. So I guess that doesn't work either, whatever. But I'm just saying a lot of people who are left leaning, because I do believe, even though Mike's talking about being on both sides, he is very left leaning, as most African Americans are. They're kind of just on the left. They do really feel like the Republican side of things is very white and, you know, inherently racist and, you know, a lot of things that are just false. So they lean left, and they often think that rich people are evil, even when they become rich. That's the funny thing about like African Americans. They become rich and still feel like, well, you know, those white rich people, they're, you know how they are. They're evil. I mean, Mike's a millionaire. He's sitting with another millionaire. Arguably, Jamie's probably a millionaire as well. I mean, these are a bunch of millionaires in a room talking about how Trump is cheating, when his accountant is probably doing the exact same things for him on a smaller scale. I don't know. Just that's just my thing when it comes to that. I've been learning a lot about money, and a lot of people have a very misconstrued view of it. And I don't have a lot of money, but I am starting to learn about it, because that's the thing that can help you, you know, move out of the poor class if that's where you are, because I've lived below the poverty line for decades, and I'm becoming middle class, and, you know, hopefully I can get some generational wealth. But yeah, very interesting episode. I would check it out if I were you. They touch on a lot of different things like this. It's 2 hours, 39 minutes, 29 seconds. And if you want to catch the clip that I was just on, I started it at 1 hour, 6 minutes, no seconds. And I ended it at 1 hour, 12 minutes, no seconds. So you can go and check that out. There's a little more talk about money. They get a little more into politics, and they just overall have a very interesting conversation. Killer Mike's an interesting guy. If you do decide to watch the episode, count how many times he shouts people out. I counted about 15. It's wild. He's shouting out everybody he knows in this episode. Anyways, guys, like the video. It helps so much. It boosts us out of the shadow realm. It's much appreciated. Thank you for watching. And other than that, I am out.